Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. I'm Rick Plaskett, a certified executive and business coach here at Action Coach in Columbus, Ohio. Today I have with me John Petty, and he is the owner, CEO of Naible as my guest. Good afternoon, John. How are you
Good.
doing today?
Good. How are you doing today?
Super. Hey, listen, today we're going to be talking about his business, his journey to ownership, a little bit of his challenges and best practices, and then share a little peek into what it's really like to own a business, be successful, and operate that business. If this is your first time on the channel, please be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button to get notifications where you can drop into conversations just like this one into the future. So, John, welcome and thank you again for being here today. If you would, can you share just a little background of you and Niable? And I guess the background would be of you and a little definition of what Niable is.
Absolutely. So a little bit about myself, prior military veteran, spent a lot of time overseas, different deployments, and ended up in government and then found my way into finance. Almost a decade in finance, focused on insider threat and security, and then kind of, for lack of a better term, tripped and fell into AI through just not liking what industry was doing within the space and started to create our own AI products within the financial industry, and then quickly realized that our approach was a little novel. So as we were kind of working through that, I had the opportunity when like generative AI became more of a focus to start alpha testing with OpenAI. And they eventually introduced me to Microsoft, and the rest is kind of history. And Enable was born out of like really what started as a think tank to do things outside of, the big bureaucratical organizations that I used to be part of, and move into something that's a little more agile and can move faster.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. So that the audience here can understand, and if, I'm just saying understand loosely because AI is brand new to me too. I'm an older guy and it takes a little bit to understand where the opportunities are, even though we know that that genie is out of the bottle and it is going to be a fun ride when everybody figures out what to do with it. Um, in Niable, what form of structure is your business on? Do you have a partner? Do you have outside investors, or are you the sole
We're a corporation.
genius and genie in the bottle?
No, we are privately owned, but we are a corporation. I have co-founders, quite a diverse group of co-founders, and then we are actually bootstrapped up into a little bit past the last year. We are entering our first funding round with a group out of DC, actually a veteran group, which is kind of fell into our lap, and that'll be our first funding round, mainly around just accelerating. We have a lot of projects happening simultaneously, as well as the move from like a lot of the consulting and like bootstrap sort of like move and get as many projects as you can to stay above water. And then now we need to move also and kind of in the same parallel be building our own productization.
Awesome, awesome. So along that same lines, let's move to the next one, and that is in that role that you fill right now. Just a ballpark figure. How much do you think that you're spending nuts and bolts in the business versus how many hours do you work on the business from strategy, planning, and envisioning?
That is a that is a hard question to answer because it really just depends on the day, what's going on, demand, you how many leads come in that week. But I would say we're probably close to 50-50, meaning like significant amount of our time and effort hours are client focused. And then we're very I would call it like AI native, meaning we have about 323 projects at this point that we've completed. And of those 323, a large portion that we've even delivered to customers started out as Enable like internal. So like whether it's solving like, hey, we don't want to have or hire, an entire agile team around just to project manage and handle all this stuff. So like, let's build an AI solution that hooks into ADO. Hey, we don't want to do X, Y, and Z with like social media, so let's automate. or like build out a capability for us to build posts, create them, and then store them, and then the automation happens to post them. Little things like that that just gave us the ability to be a little more diverse, at least from a portfolio perspective. But when we have a client come to us, it really helps because we can go like, oh, we've already solved that problem. We did it for us. But it also helps us stay lean.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Now you've just answered the next question I was going to ask, and that is, how do I know I need your service? But you've listed all six different services right there in one breath. What makes what makes you and Niable unique from your customers right now?
Um,
I'm sorry,
well,
from your competitors.
oh, from our competitors. Yeah.
Yes.
So I was wondering how to take that with the customer,
Yeah,
but that's a lot easier on the competitor side. So early on, we started out focused on what was like LLMs and sort of structured output look like. So before OpenAI had really announced like their API hook in to structured, um, one of my co-founders actually had completed that, and we had been using structured output for a while in one of our models that did essentially automated email and calendar. So when that came out, obviously it made it easier for us, which is kind of because now we can use that model that inherently has it. But we've been very focused on like, how do we make things feel more human? How do we align with human cognition? And what O1 is doing, which is the new model that OpenAI calls like thinking AI, we have been doing that for about a year. We call it metacognition instead of thinking. It essentially allows the AI to have different thinking frameworks and take time to process information from an individual before responding. Meaning, I can put ethical frameworks, I can put guidelines, or even specific frameworks within finance, healthcare, or other industries that allow the AI to process internally without this huge, massive output that confuses the user, so that answers are more accurate, they're more specific, but it even gets to where it will self identify errors in its own logic or errors within its own content and fix them and correct them before presented to a user. So it really adds a lot of power to the fidelity, the accuracy, and the utility of the AI.
Is it fair, as I listen to you, John, it to me sounds like what you do, what Niable does, is very customized to every single client, and customized by building a base foundation of what makes me, Rick, unique from you, John, as the user of the AI, and therefore it is more customized to what I need, my personality, my values and beliefs, and all of the inputs that I'm putting into this project that will yield a different outcome for me than it would for you.
Yeah, so I mean that's a really good way to put it. We have a project that we hope to release soon that does that at scale, more of a B2C
Hmm.
aspect. But for our B2B clients, a lot of what we focus on is custom. I would say from a utility standpoint, because really the customization is your data. That's what makes your business or what you're doing special. So when you have the ability not only to deploy, and we actually use a lot of the same cognitive engine in most of what we build. So the core of our AI is still enables like main core. But when we start to shape and put specific either industry frameworks, which we have built out, or emotional frameworks because it's more client focused or it's writing things to customers, or we're actually looking at making it so that it's for the CEO versus the CTO, which have
Hmm.
very different roles. Some of that is generated automatically, meaning as it interacts with you, it uses your user profile to understand and contextualize who you are, and that changes how it responds. But a lot of times it really just depends on the use case and how specific and how deep that client wants to go into the customization. And it's really fun because we do get to do a whole bunch of different types of like implementations, but really the main two pieces that are almost always the same, as least as far as a fundamental element, is the customer's data and the cognitive engine.
Hmm. So taking that, let's explore into marketing a little bit,
Mhm.
and what and where what's working for you now in the way of getting your next new client, and what are you looking to add to that in an area of marketing? This is an area where many businesses struggle. So many of the interviews in the past, and there's people all over the internet that are saying, hey, I spend X number of dollars and I just throw it out there and I know that 50% won't work and 50% will. My personal experience in working with all of my clients is when you add and understand a level of control and testing and measuring in your marketing, that marketing becomes more of buying customers. It's more calculable, and maybe AI and Naible would help in that area as well as analytics, just like they use in football. Um, but what's working in a pure business side for you? I'm just really curious, is what's been successful for you so far in marketing?
Um, Really, right now, we have not spent much on marketing. Like, actually, our budget has been next to zero, mainly because most of our business is word of mouth. We've been growing. Originally, I would say a year ago, there was only like 4 or 5 of us, and that team's been growing, and now we even have offshore. And as it's grown, right, we've been starting to expand our clients, but a lot of it is just organic growth through, like, we
Okay.
do something that like blows someone away, they go tell their friends, and then now we have 3 clients that came out of one. Actually, we did a prime, the prime for another contract that we worked as a sub just reached out today to ask us to come on to his contract, but just for his company, because they wanted some AI. So like it's a lot of it is just very organic right now. From a what we're headed into, it really has to go with like what is the problem with marketing right now. Right now you're dealing with content overload, right? You have everybody's using AI, it's everywhere. You have just like a lot of customer fatigue. So if it doesn't interest you, you're not going to engage with it, is like one big component. The other side is like trust is also at an all-time low. Like, people don't like AI content a lot of times because there isn't enough specificity, or the information is too generic, or it's wrong sometimes.
Hmm.
I've even seen that. So it's kind of a balance between like standing out. How do I grab someone's attention and interest? Unfortunately, pretty pictures work. Videos are a big component. A level of authenticity and emotional content, or like trying to drive purposeful, or as one of my mentors put it, like um, contentious, positive contention, right, in the conversation. But a lot of where we're hoping to get to is more community focused, and like developing something that like builds itself and brings value back to the community members. And then through that, hopefully that marketing can be a little more wide as far as like who we're touching and why we're touching them, and that word of mouth. Because I mean, right now, the clients that we get that are from word of mouth are by far our better clients.
Hmm.
A lot of times that like that, we put a LinkedIn post up and somebody reaches out, the likelihood of that lead like reaching any point of like actually turning is so low, compared to somebody comes to us and goes, oh my god, so and so said like this was amazing, you guys did awesome, and you delivered it in like 2 weeks. I want to do something, I want to do that exact thing. And it's like, okay, cool, like we sign a sal real quick and turn that around. But
Super.
um
That's a
yeah, I would say,
superpower.
I think like the hope, get it, that's going to be an interesting space just overall.
Hmm.
One of our board members is at a very large company, and actually is their AI marketing director. And he specifically has been working a lot with some of our projects around like actually adaptive to the specific users. So if I think about like the data that is collected on you throughout the web as you move through, like all those cookies and all that lovely stuff that Google likes to grab. Um, what's really interesting is we can start to extrapolate tendencies and very interesting data points that allow us to adapt not just the website like in real time to you, but even adapt content and generate it in real time so it's more targeted towards you. So it's the difference in like, how do I tell a CEO, right, about what we do from an AI perspective, and a CTO who actually may lead an AI organization under them? The words that I use are going to be completely different, but the message is still the same from a value statement.
So I'm curious, using and first of all, congratulations to get to where you are right now, the depth and the breadth that you've achieved, and having word of mouth acting so successfully for you. I'm curious, is that word of mouth on the one side of the scale, it would be completely hands off. You're just doing a great job. And because they recognize that, they're handing out your business card and inviting others to come in? Or are you using just what you defined in what AI does for individuals? Are you more controlled and more structured in your better term, client referrals? Because that's really what word of mouth is client referrals or client introductions. So is that an organic approach right now, or do you have a more controlled and let's just call it a coaching type of approach?
Um, I would say it's a little bit of both. Some of it
Okay.
is organic, right? And I would say some of it is, I mean, we typically don't turn clients away, but we have done that in the past, and we have some that we just there it's just not a good fit.
Mhm. Mhm. I'm just wondering, oh, did we just freeze?
Projects are, or project is so large and would take so. Oh, I think so.
We're good now.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying like we have turned clients away, but for the most part, like a lot of it is a little mixture of both. We do try to go after certain clients.
Mhm.
That is a like very true statement. Like we look for a certain type of clientele. Those clientele are in touch with the type of clientele that we want to attract. And as we branch out, specifically within industries, like we don't do a lot of educational work, but we have some educational partners. And it's specifically because those educational partners have connections to the customers that we want to utilize or have access to. So whether we're doing a donation type project where we're, giving our services, advisement, or product over from a donation standpoint, or as a smaller contract, it's always with a strategy behind it to get to the next thing. So that is a really interesting question, because we have one right now with the state government, sort of like we're working our way in, is that to grow into the next conversation.
Mhm. And again, I think that's an interesting opportunity. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm curious, what could your rate of new client, at least introductions, be if you were just a little more intentional with that referral program? In other words, from a business side, again, everything that you just defined of what AI can give to the users, that type of similar approach in your own marketing. I'm just wondering how big that bottom line really could be from tapping into that, what appears to me to be a superpower of yours. So again,
Yeah,
don't
so I
want to
mean
put you
that's
on
this
the
this is one of
spot.
my
That was a
favorite areas of business.
that was a dream and
Oh no,
envisioning statement.
no, that's a great point. Business. I don't know everything, so we recently hired a marketing director, and they are building all of. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're kind of like building their own strategy around all of this, because marketing's not my specialty. Building AI is, and I can empower him through AI. I can make what he does or his tools stronger, more powerful, faster, I can give him a whole marketing team that through AI. So there's a whole bunch of fun stuff that we can do to expand his capability and augment him as an individual that, of course, we're heavily focused on. But from a like day to day, I think we've reached that point of maturation where we realize like I can't do that, and that's not what I know to do or how to do. So we've had to go out and hire the right people for that.
That's awesome. So, and you've just led me into the next segment here. Let's fast forward now, looking into the future. Where do you see Naible in your business 3 to 5 years from now?
In 3 years, I would say we're probably entering our Series A by that point and moving very heavily on our B2C and B2B plans with a very different marketing segment for each target. There is a significant amount of overlap because of like how we design our AI, which will be interesting to kind of break out. But you've probably seen the same things. Like you go to any of the main sites, even ChatGPT, and you eventually end up on the enterprise side. Like as you get past that B2C,
Right.
so very similar approach from that aspect. So my goal would be that we're probably doing a little over 2 to 3 in AAR per or like on a year basis. Our marketing budget is probably in the at 1 million or more by then.
Okay.
And the trajectory is really on providing those bespoke client specific customizations, but in an automated fashion so that the clients can self-service.
Super. So in that approach, what's your approach to goal setting? I mean, how many goals do you set at a time? Do you actually capture them and document them? And then what type of time frame are you looking at for goal achievement?
So typically I set no more than 5 goals for organizationally. Those main goals can cascade down obviously to each direct leader. They can have 3 to 5 goals, but what I try to focus on is like less is more. What are the main things? Like if I think about that average person trying to go out and get things done each day, how much stuff can you keep in your brain? Five's kind of pushing it.
Hmm.
So in that aspect, like being able to ask yourself what I'm doing right now, does it align to what I need to do and the overall strategy of what we're trying to drive towards? In a startup as small as ours, it's a little bit easier, but it's also hard because we don't have the organizational like muscle memory, right? Where all those processes are established. A lot of those are being built. So we're a little more diverse in our goals as far as like, kind of back to that comment on 50% in, 50% external, as far as our time investment and building that out. The goal would be that like less and less internal, more and more external, right? As we start to segue those defined processes. But as far as goals and like how many, I think right now we have about 5. My goal would be that probably by end of year, almost all of those have been met or at least exceeded. And then we will probably go into next year with 3, and those will cascade down to my directs.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. Hey, listen, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today in our conversation. For those of you who are watching, I highly encourage you to save this and come back a few times because John's just given me a wealth of information. I've probably filled an entire page with notes just listening to him today. Listen, before we wrap it up and go into our last segment of the rapid fire, there's a section that I always like to listen to my interviewee. John, why are you doing this? What is your drive? Why, where do you find your strength to take the next phone call, to get up the next morning?
You broke out there for a second, but I think you asked, why am I doing this?
Yeah,
What
what
gets me up in
what
the
what
morning?
is your drive behind it?
Okay. Um, I think that coming out of like large bureaucratic organizations, one of my big focuses is just being able to think and innovate at speed has been one big part of it. But also in looking at like what innovation is really doing and the exponential like technology curve that we're on. A lot of it is focused on like trust, education, and social impact. I think like very holistically about Enable, not just as an industry driving force, but as an educational and social impact driving force. And a lot of our focus on like building the metacognitive structures as well as the ethical components within the foundational like cognition is to bring sort of a transparency aspect to what this AI is doing. Not that it's just a black box that, you know, does really cool stuff, but being able to go back and look and be like, I want to understand why it made that decision. And like, what does protecting a minor look like with accessibility to AI versus an adult?
Mhm.
And why is it different? Why does it need to be different? How should parents think about these things? I think there's probably more questions than we have answers right now, but I think all of us know that it's going to be significantly more impactful than any of us realize over the next 5 years. So my main motivation is really that like while driving value, we can also help push the agenda and like conversation.
Super. Hey, before we got started today, John, you had mentioned a charitable direction that you and the company are working to bring to full fruition. Can you share with the audience a little bit about what that vision is?
Absolutely. So we're actually working towards a educational platform as well as a community type interaction platform called Enable You. One of the goals is that we have a transparent revenue model with that side of the organization so that people know exactly where their money's going. That'll be as much as like also showing what funds are, subscriptions, what that costs. Our goal being that, you know, we're using the bottom 10% to cover operational costs, but 20% is going back to the community and the education investment. 35% is going back towards affiliate programs or like bringing the community or building the community. And then 35% are going towards charitable donations of some sort within either the local community or within the community as a whole. So as we bring on a wider distribution within the community, sort of giving that feedback or offering those funds back is like who needs AI programs, where do they need them, who needs help with like education or even just sometimes democratization and exposure. A lot of my time in finance, I got to experience some really cool different donation or charitable aspects. And one of my favorites was working with like food deserts. And I go
Hmm.
back and I think a lot about like how many, you know, schools are going to be putting in GPUs and teaching people about what they're actually walking into from a workforce perspective. And like what schools are going to get those and what the level of investment. I would hope that one day a lot of our entrepreneurship and development from a company perspective can be given back to expand the influence and helping accessibility from that aspect.
That's awesome. That is, I look forward to seeing the results of that endeavor. It's pretty impressive when you first shared that with me, and now hearing even just a little bit more. I look forward to really seeing some of the fruits of that labor there. All right, so to wrap up here, let's do a quick rapid fire questions. These are just top of your mind type of answers. Number one, what's the key to success for you?
Ooh. Surrounding myself with amazing people.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. What's the one piece of advice that you would give to other business owners?
Relationships will make you far more money than any commercial ever will.
Awesome. Awesome. What's one book or article that you're reading now or that really has influenced you?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked that. So I get to do a plug for one of my mentors. This is Famous Within 12 People. So he just released this book, and his name's Richard Bird, a longtime mentor and just someone I've always looked up to. Currently, he's been at Traceable, or yeah, Traceable, yeah. working as their CSO. Awesome dude, first of all. But
All right,
this
hold
book
it up
is something
steady.
he's been
John,
talking to me
hold it up
about for a long
steady so
time.
that we can get a
Oh, sorry.
capture on that. You're waving it around there. Perfect. Thank you. Got it.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Well,
No,
famous within
that's
12
great. That's
people.
great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, it's kind of a joke that from a title perspective, but the main point is there's these micro influencers from a like famous like people know who Richard is within cybersecurity because of what he's done in that field and who he is from a presenter and a lot of the conferences and stuff. But as soon as you leave cybersecurity, there's very few people who know who he is. And mainly his point is like when you find your niche and you can understand like how marketing and branding and all these things work and starting to build that for yourself, there's a lot of power behind that, building a community behind that brand. And the book is about that.
Super. Thank you. Thank you. If there was one area of your business that you could choose today that if it was immediately improved tomorrow when you woke up, what would that area be?
Ooh. Um, I would probably say just general administration. Like it's probably the area we struggle with the most, mainly because of just manpower.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. That's appreciative. All right. So last question here is if the audience wants to get in touch with you, wants to learn more about what you and your company do, how do you want them to contact you?
They can go to enable.ai, which is our website. There's a contact form there as you scroll down. Or if they want, they can reach out on LinkedIn. There's also a company page there, or to me directly on LinkedIn, and more than happy to carry on a conversation or connect them with the right person in the organization.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, John, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey. Thank you, the audience, for listening in again today and watching. You never know what might inspire you to listen and learn something from here. If you didn't grab one good nugget from John's interview today, you didn't have the volume turned up loud enough, is all I can say. It was just chock full, and I really appreciate it. So listen, keep driving in your business, keep asking the right questions. Let's make it a great day, and bye for now.